You say you want a revolution. Well, I've got 78 of them every minute. Hi, folks, I'm Uncle Warren Bloom. Come with me to the days when life sped by at 78 revolutions per minute.
Prepare your minds for a new scale of physical scientific values, gentlemen.
Prince's Band gets us underway with a 1910 rendition of Tchaikovsky's immortal 1812 Overture. Joseph Prince was a prolific conductor of the early days of recorded music, and that particular recording is on a 12-inch disc, which allowed for an additional minute of music than was possible with the standard 10-inch discs. 78 Revolutions is sponsored by me. I may be Uncle Warren Bloom, the podcaster, but I'm also Warren Bloom, the writer, and I'd love for you to check out my work, such as A Good Read for the Election Season, Refuse to Be Afraid. Tired of the fearmongers? Ready to plow through the nagging doubts and outright fears of various sizes and shapes that are keeping you from living your best life? Eager to take the leap into that new job, start that new business, or meet that person you'd really like to know better? Well, what's keeping you back? This is the challenge before you, faced with a scary reality, to navigate past the anxiety and live the life you deserve. That's the theme of Refuse to Be Afraid, my book that encourages you to free yourself and move on to your dreams. Check out the show notes for this episode at warrenbloom.com for more information about how to click through and buy Refuse to Be Afraid. warrenbloom.com, of course, is WARENBLUHM.com. A week ago, I stumbled across a terrific stash of old 78s from the early 20th century at an estate auction, including a lot of those 12-inch discs. Red has picked up a mild addiction to these things. You bid online and you come over to the old house to pick up your winnings. At this place, they had a bunch of odds and ends in the garage for sale that had not been listed online. The guy at the door handed us a grocery bag and said we could have anything we could fit into the bag for $10. Imagine how I felt when I found a box full of 78s near the back of the room. And many of these were these old 12-inch discs, as I said, including a half dozen songs by the legendary Harry Lauder, a larger-than-life entertainer that Winston Churchill once described as Scotland's greatest ever ambassador. People bought millions of Harry's records, which featured his mostly original songs about Scotland, interspersed with his laughing commentary. When RCA Victor issued its series of LPs 60 Years of Music America Loves Best in 1959, one of the songs they included from the thousands in their catalog was Harry Lauder's A Wee Doch and Doris. Here's a sample of Harry Lauder's work from 1920, I Think I'll Get Wed in the Summer.
Cold in the chest, and the doctor advised me to go for a rest. But I went to the seaside for 2 or 3 weeks. The weather was fine and it coloured my cheeks. I went for a sail every day I was there. I didn't care whether raining or fair. The last sail I had was a bumping success. I got acquainted with Nellie McNess, so I think I'll get wed in the summertime. Think I'll get wed in July. I think I'll get wed when the roses are red and the weather is lovely and dry. Hand in hand together we'll stand at the altar united to be sweethearts forever and ever, my bonny wee Nellie and me. I'd like to picture this lassie of mine. Her hair is like silk and her lips are like wine. Her shoes, they are twos, and her bonny blue eyes twinkle always like the stars in the skies. And she sings like a birdie building its nest. She's all thing that's good, she's all thing that's best. She's almost as perfect can be. She only needs one thing, and that thing is me. So I think I'll get wed in the summertime. Think I'll get wed in July. I think I'll get wed when the roses are red and the weather is lovely and dry. Hand in hand together we'll stand at the altar united to be sweethearts forever and ever, my bonny wee Nellie and me. I tell you. Since I met Nellie, the fun has been great. I meet her each night at 7:45. Then we both go for a stroll up the glen, but always get back about 20 to 10. Then we stand at our gate and we plan and we plot what we will do with the money she's got. Last night I told her I thought that she should hand it to me, so she's promised she would. So I think I'll get wed in the summertime. Think I'll get wed in July. I think I'll get wed when the roses are red and the weather is lovely and dry. Hand in hand together we'll stand at the altar united to be sweethearts forever and ever, my body with Nom, nom, nom. I tell you.
Sir Harry Lauder, he was knighted in 1919 by King George V, was the oldest of 7 children, but he only had 1 child of his own with his wife Anne, and tragically Captain John Lauder was killed in France in December 1916 during the Great War. The future Sir Harry worked hard raising money for war charities and entertained the troops on numerous occasions, writing patriotic fight songs like this one, preserved in wax in 1918, a tune about how the fight was being led by soldiers from the north, south, east, and west.
I was leaving one of the encampments not very long ago. When I come out onto the main road, I encountered a battalion of the men getting back to the camp. They'd been out on a long route march. They were looking very tired and weary. And as they passed me on the road, I said, there they go. From every part of the United States, I suppose. Aye, maybe some of your lads were there. And as the brown men sank into the brown camp yonder, where the sun was setting behind the trees, I said, I'll write a little song about the camp tonight, and I did. And I'm going to sing it to you, marching with the President from the north, south, east, and west. The camp was miles and miles and miles and miles and miles away, and all the boys were very, very weary. They'd been marching, 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 marching all the day, singing all the songs to keep them cheery. They sang the Swanee River 50,000 times or more. The sergeant major said he'd never heard the songs before. Of all the songs they sang that day, the song they liked the best was the north, south, east, and west. From the north and the south and the east and the west, marching with the President, we'll never, never rest. We're going to do our very, 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 very best. From the north, south, east, and west. From the north and the south and the east and the west, marching with the President, we'll never, never rest. We're going to do our very, 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 very best. From the north, south, east, and west. They reached the camp at midnight, and then after they were fed, all the boys were very, very cheery. They sat and smoked and joked before they tumbled into bed, to dream about their dearest little dearie. For every soldier has a girl to fight for nowadays, and every man can do his bit in lots of different ways. Every man today has got to go and stand the test. From the north, south, east, and west. From the north and the south and the east and the west, marching with the President, we'll never, never rest. We're going to do our very, 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 very best. From the north, south, east, and west. From the north and the south and the east and the west, marching with the President. to do our very, 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 very best from the north, south, east, and west.
Google, the great and powerful, tells me, among other factoids, that Harry Lauder was the first British entertainer to sell 1 million records, and was a favorite of King Edward VII, and an intimate friend of the famous tea magnate Sir Thomas Lipton, among others. Another great voice from the first 2 decades of the 20th century was one of the greatest tenors of all time, Enrico Caruso. And for what it's worth, while Harry Lauder was featured in Volume 3 of 60 Years of Music America Loved Best, Caruso sang the first track on Volume 1. Now, a couple of those records I bought in the $10 bag this month were Caruso recordings from the era where often the record had only one side. I saw something new for me on one of them, liner notes on the blank side of Ma Pari, or Ah So Pure, from the romantic opera Martha by Friedrich von Flotow. First staged in 1847, Martha gained new popularity in 1906 when it was performed in Italian with Caruso playing the role of Lionel. Now, the notes printed on the back of the record say that in this melodious song, the heartbroken Lionel tells of his hopeless love for the fair lady Harriet, whom he only knows as Martha. Caruso sings it with all the pathos and tenderness which it requires. If you can't follow along in Italian, the notes also include a translation. Like a dream, bright and fair, chasing every thought of care, those sweet hours passed with thee made the world all joy for me. But alas, thou art gone, and that dream of bliss is o'er. Ah, I hear the tone of thy gentle voice no more. Oh, return happy hours fraught with hope so bright. Come again, sunny days of pure delight. Fleeting vision clothed in brightness, wherefore thus so soon depart? O'er my pathway shed thy likeness once again, and cheer my heart. They say romantic stories have a simple formula. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl. Ah, So Pure is from the Boy Loses Girl part of Martha, featuring Enrico Caruso. But don't worry, I peeked. Boy does get girl in the end. The last act of this week's 78 Revolutions features an old Russian folk song adapted with two quite different approaches. Russian opera virtuoso Feodor Chaliapin is credited with popularizing the song of Volga Boatmen with this interpretation in 1927. Now, Glenn Miller and his orchestra had a #1 hit in 1941 with the song of the Volga Boatmen, but the version you just heard by Jimmy Dorsey and his orchestra was recorded in April 1938, almost 3 years earlier, for what it's worth. Well, that brings us to the close of 78 Revolutions Per Minute, number 12. Next week is the last episode of Season 1, and I'll have a special announcement about the show's future at that time. In the meantime, like us on Facebook, leave us an iTunes review, subscribe to the podcast, and help me get the word out about our weekly visit to a time when life sped by at 78 revolutions per minute. In the meantime, thanks for listening. I'm Uncle Warren Blow.
Goodbye now, goodbye now, I thought the party was divine. I spent the evening forgetting the time, I can't deny, but now goodbye. Goodbye now, it's just a moment we're apart. To make it certain I'll leave you my heart, but for now, goodbye now.
What has happened here was caused by a force which, up until a few days ago, was entirely beyond the scope of man's imagination.